Welcome back to another episode of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. My name is Stelio, and I'm going to be starting off in the Midway, building some, buildings along this main street. I'm going to jump into building a station for this inverted coaster, and then I'm going to rebuild a classic coaster from one of the original episodes. So, this is a pretty exciting episode. So, to jump in, I'm just going to be building, these basic style Main Street buildings that besides the facade on the front, they're pretty bland and they don't really look good. So they're more just to be looked at on the front and to be a part of the Main Street facade and house some kind of park service or a building inside. They do their job perfectly, and I think, for just being a side building, they look good. This little brick building isn't really going to have a purpose in the park, but it's more just here to look good. And I think, with some of the texture that I added to it and the, different levels, it actually looks pretty good as well. Right now, I'm just going to place a couple planters and some deviations on this midway just because, I think it's a little too much brick and a little too much of one texture in a small area. So I think switching it up and having a planter here will look a lot more proper. It'll give some green space, and we'll be able to have some paths around it as well. Have some seating and, services. This right here is a sneak preview of what I'm going to be working on later in this episode. Yes, a lot of these building strategies and tactics look very dated, but that's kind of the style that I was going for. When you sign up for something like Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, you're getting into some classic material, and the gameplay isn't the newest. So you know I'm kind of going. I would rather fully embrace the cartoonish style of the buildings and the artwork instead of try to pump it with graphics mods and try to make it realistic. As much as that's fun, it's a lot more fun to take the joy and take what you can from it. But right now I'm going to be working on this bright orange station for this inverted coaster because this is one of the top coasters at the park. This thing, I think it has three or four inversions. It's going to hit a nice top speed. It goes down into that underground part. It's not a tunnel area, but I think this coaster, since it's on the midway, it's going to have nice lines and it's going to be a really popular attraction, especially since it goes through the woods back here and it goes really far actually. For being in such a small park, it's a pretty long coaster and it would be considered a pretty top tier B&M coaster as well. So right now I'm going to be jumping into the transformation in this episode. So this Morgan hypercoaster over here in the prehistoric area, I'm just not satisfied with it anymore. I think when I built it 5 years ago, I would have been fine with it, but in today's standard, it just doesn't look good, and it takes up so much space, and I think it could be a lot better. So I'm going to work here for a good 30 seconds to try and find the best way that I can have this layout work, and I end up having to tear this monorail out a little bit, but it still ends up going through the coaster, and it was just hard to fit the drop in right and make it so there would be enough clearance, and the drop also wouldn't be too steep or too harsh. So it was hard, but I ended up just tearing out this monorail part right here and retracking it eventually, and I think that ends up working a lot better because Now we're able to have these large, lifts, and uh, it all just works a lot better. I liked having the big turns and the snake part, and I definitely want to bring that back. So I'm gonna have that go right over here, and I have an even bigger drop now and an even bigger helix part. So both of these parts, both of these elements on the coaster really satisfy me because they take what the original coaster had and build from it tremendously. This layout is also much longer and much more intense. It also keeps the speed for much longer and uses the speed much better as well. This is just an all around, side by side example of how I've gotten smarter and better just in general. I mean, I think I might have been a little lazy when I first made the layout, but who knows. But besides that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.